World War I, also called the Great War, erupted in 1914 after decades of rising nationalism, militarization, and complex alliances among European powers. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in Sarajevo triggered the war. But the underlying causes were much deeper. Imperial rivalries, the arms race, and a tense system of treaties that forced countries into conflict. Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, France, and Britain were all pulled into the fighting within weeks. The war began with optimism from some governments, thinking it would be a quick and decisive conflict. But it soon became a nightmare of entrenched positions and unprecedented destruction. World War I became infamous for trench warfare, which created a static, horrific battlefield across France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. Soldiers lived in mud, rats, lice, and the constant stench of death. Artillery barrages could last for hours or days, leveling entire landscapes. Poison gas, first used on a massive scale in World War I, caused choking, blindness, and agonizing deaths. Millions of soldiers died, not only from combat, but from disease, exposure, and psychological trauma, now recognized as shell shock. World War I introduced industrialized warfare. Machine guns, tanks, chemical weapons, and barbed wire made the battlefield a deadly trap, where individual bravery often meant nothing against the machine of war. While fighting occurred mainly in Europe, ww1 affected civilians across the globe. Economic blockades caused famine, especially in Germany and Austria-Hungary. Cities were bombarded from the air for the first time, instilling terror among non-combatants. Millions of refugees fled battle zones, spreading suffering and disease. The war also destabilized empires. The Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and German empires all collapsed, creating political chaos and new conflicts. Civilians endured conscription, forced labor, and shortages, experiencing war not just as a distant battlefield, but as an invasive daily reality. The war ended in 1918 with the signing of the armistice. After 4 years of relentless slaughter, the Treaty of Versailles punished Germany with reparations and territorial losses, creating deep resentment that would later fuel Hitler's rise. ww1 caused around 17 million deaths and 20 million wounded, including soldiers and civilians, a scale unimaginable to the population at the time. It also introduced a precedent for modern total warfare, where entire societies, economies, and populations were mobilized for combat. The war's aftermath left Europe politically fragile, economically devastated, and socially traumatized, setting the stage for a far deadlier conflict 2 decades later. World War II erupted in 1939, but its roots lay directly in the unresolved tensions of w1 and the harsh conditions of the Treaty of Versailles. Germany, humiliated and economically crippled, saw the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, which promised revenge, expansion, and racial supremacy. Meanwhile, imperial ambitions grew in Japan and Italy, destabilizing East Asia and the Mediterranean. The immediate trigger was Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, prompting Britain and France to declare war. Unlike World War I, World War II began as a fully mechanized, fast-moving war, combining massive armies, tanks, airplanes, and modern artillery. The horrors of the future had arrived. World War II was unparalleled in cruelty and scale. Blitzkrieg tactics allowed Germany to conquer vast territories rapidly, while millions of civilians were systematically targeted. The Holocaust saw the industrialized murder of 6 million Jews, along with millions of Romani, disabled people, and political dissidents. Bombing campaigns leveled cities like London, Dresden, and Tokyo, killing hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. Modern weapons, fighter planes, tanks, submarines, long-range artillery, and eventually nuclear bombs, made destruction total. Soldiers and civilians alike faced starvation, forced labor, and genocidal terror on a scale previously unimaginable. World War II involved more nations than any previous war, turning the conflict into a truly global nightmare. Fighting spanned Europe, North Africa, the Pacific, and Asia. Millions of civilians were caught in crossfire or targeted directly by occupying forces. Concentration camps, death marches, and systematic killings added an entirely new dimension of terror. Economies collapsed, entire cities were destroyed, and populations were displaced on an unprecedented scale. The psychological and cultural scars lasted generations. Unlike World War I, World War II demonstrated that technology, ideology, and totalitarian regimes could be combined to create almost unimaginable suffering. World War I had competent but cautious generals and monarchs, while World War II featured ideological tyrants like Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Emperor Hirohito, whose decisions directly caused mass civilian deaths. Hitler's genocidal ambitions, combined with the military strategies of leaders like Tojo in Japan and Mussolini in Italy, made World War II more personally terrorizing for populations. World War I's destruction was often seen as impersonal, the result of industrialized armies, while World War II combined the machinery of modern warfare with explicit, ideologically driven mass murder. World War II ended in 1945 with the unconditional surrender of Germany in May and Japan in September after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It caused approximately 70 to 85 million deaths, including civilian casualties far surpassing World War I. The war reshaped the world. The United Nations was formed. Europe was divided during the Cold War, and former colonies began their path to independence. Economies were destroyed, cities lay in ruins, and millions were homeless or orphaned. World War II demonstrated the terrifying capability of modern industrial powers to annihilate both combatants and innocents alike. World War I introduced industrialized warfare and unprecedented casualties. But World War II expanded destruction to global civilian populations, introduced genocide on an industrial scale, and used technological weapons that could wipe out entire cities. While World War I traumatized Europe and reshaped empires, World War II combined ideology, technology, and total warfare to create horror on every continent. Millions died in both, but the deliberate targeting of civilians, the Holocaust, and the atomic bombings make World War II arguably more terrifying in human terms. World War I showed humanity's capacity for mass destruction. World War II showed humanity's capacity for systematic annihilation.